I will be giving you a quick overview of an upcoming report that we have done in collaboration with the high-level working group members that focuses on green and sustainable sukuk. So by way of introduction, this report is something that originated out of the high-level working group on green sukuk that was launched. And the purpose of the report is really to provide some context and overview at the current state of the sukuk, green and sustainability sukuk market, and give some direction or recommendations that can feed in to the activities of the high-level working group to ensure that their initiatives are aligned with the needs of the market. The report consists of a combination of primary and secondary research being desktop research, but the primary research being a combination of contributions from the working group members, interviews with executives in the market, and a survey that has been conducted that has given us some very, very interesting insights as to how market players and practitioners are perceiving the green and sustainable sukuk market. The report is actually going to be launched on the 24th of October, but we have the opportunity now to present some of the key findings and some of the high-level outcomes that are coming out, and we hope that you will look for the report once it's launched, and it will be available on the GEFI and UKIFC website, the Refinitiv and LSEG websites, and the websites of various partners that have worked on the report through the working group. As I mentioned, the purpose of the report is to feed into the activities of the high-level working group and being able to identify and address some of the challenges that exist within the green sukuk and sustainability space. In terms of insights, we looked at the overall market. We looked at the conventional bond market as well, and it was a fantastic time because the conventional bond market exceeded for the first time $1 trillion in 2021, which was a huge milestone. And we're seeing that projection also grow in sukuk as well. Sukuk issuances, particularly green and sustainable sukuk issuances, have continued to increase over the last few years. And whereas overall sukuk issuance is expected to decline this year, green and sustainable sukuk are expected to continue to grow despite the current macroeconomic environment that we find ourselves in, to set a new record for this year and continue to evolve going forward. We have looked at the types of issuances that have taken place in the market. We have looked at, which markets, which countries they've come from. We've profiled some of the interesting and some of the larger issuances that are taking place, whether those are sovereign, whether those are corporate or from supranational institutions like Islamic Development Bank or others. We've looked at demand side, and there is a significant increase in demand when it comes to green and sustainability sukuk compared to conventional or traditional sukuks that are in the market, which is a very interesting insight. And we go into the demand drivers in more detail in the report, which you can see once that gets launched. We do the profiling of the sukuk by corporate versus sovereign, and we look at the issuances. We've looked over the years between domestic and international issuances to see how that market has evolved. And what is very, very interesting is that corporate issuances in green and sustainable sukuk are quite prominent. So there's a lot of issuances that take place. In terms of total value, they represent 36% of the total sukuk issued, but in terms of the number of issuances, they are over 90%. So we see a lot of corporates that are very, very active in this space that are pushing and promoting the implementation of green considerations, ESG considerations, sustainability considerations within the issuances of their sukuk instruments. And more detail on this is provided in the report, along with insights and interviews with some of these corporates as to the driving force behind their incorporation of these elements in their issuances. We also conducted a survey where we looked at various different institutions, whether those are investors, whether those are primary dealers in the market, arrangers, and other stakeholders. And we looked at the incorporation of ESG mandates and ESG considerations within the broader consideration when sukuks are being issued or invested in. And we saw some very interesting insights. 54% of the investors that we surveyed have incorporated some form of ESG consideration or criteria within their Sharia compliant portfolios. 46% of investors are looking at second party and third party opinions and using different tools to evaluate the green and sustainability credentials within sukuk. And 42% of investors said that the reporting and screening criteria was a key barrier or limitation for them when it comes to investment in this space, right? And a lot of these insights, along with the executive interviews that have been conducted, have flowed into the recommendations that we are going to be looking at and presenting in some detail in this report. And I just want to give you a very, very high level overview of how the recommendations are structured, right? And they essentially fall into three different pillars for us. The first pillar is around promoting common regional international standards, right? And that you can see flows directly from the outcomes of the surveys that have taken place. And we have various different initiatives or recommendations that sit under that are geared towards bringing common standards and removing that as a barrier of entry within the ESG or green sukuk space. The second pillar is around building capacity with issuers and enhancing the broader ecosystem. And that really is about, it's geared towards increasing issuance volumes, because even though, issuances are increasing, they still are a very, very small percent. I believe only 4% of the overall sukuk market. So there's a lot of room for growth and a lot more implementation that can be done to increase the volumes. And then secondly is around innovation, utilizing different aspects of Islamic finance and sukuk structures to be able to enhance and innovate in this space. And then lastly, the third pillar is around expanding the investor base beyond traditional sukuk investors. How do you profile and spotlight the credentials of green sukuk, sustainability sukuk within the broader green investment circles and broader sustainability investment managers and others? And that becomes a critical barrier, just like sukuk has been positioned with conventional investors. And we know that about 50% approximately of all sukuks issued sit with conventional investors that are not particularly Sharia sensitive, but they're attracted to the structure and the profile of that as an investment instrument. So too, we must bridge the gap between green and sustainability sukuk and the broader green and sustainability investors, so that we can tap into a much broader audience. These are some of the high level recommendations that are coming out of the report. I won't go into too much detail on them right now, but please, I highly recommend that you look out for the report and you go through some of the insights and recommendations and the profiles that we've done in more detail, because that can help to give us a benchmark as to where we stand today, what challenges exist, where does the ecosystem stand, and how we can drive it forward. And we're very, very hopeful that the members of the working group will benefit from this and will use it to inform and feed into their strategic initiatives that they will be rolling forward, and the broader market can benefit from these insights as well. With that, Richard, I'm very happy to hand over back to you and the fellow panelists, and looking forward for the rest of the session. Thank you very much.